What's up, y'all? Today we've got another Sword of Convallaria video. Since I did my Lutfi video and like why you might not want to pull Lutfi, I felt like I just needed to make another video on like power creep and what that might look like in Sword of Convallaria, and complexity creep and how that looks like in Sword of Convallaria. Just to go and sort of explain myself a little further on what exactly I meant by, perhaps Lutfi is a particularly good character, but perhaps not always needed in all team comps. I think in particular, I talked about how, if your team comp is already heavy on debuffs and you still want to carry those old debuffers, or your team's already heavy on damage over time users, then Lutfi might not be a character for you. Or like if perhaps you have a lot of close range units already that are pretty aggressive, maybe you don't need another like Lutfi. You've already got like a ranged Kavari or something like that, right? So in that context, what do I mean? And for most contexts, this comes along as like power creep or like complexity creep. Now these aren't exactly one and the same. There's some difference between the two, but they can look very similar in times. So let's give an example of like I'll give you just an example of like what it means to have like power creep in a game like this. Like for example, power creep in this game was something like you have two units from the same sort of like expansion, quote unquote expansion. Like imagine Crimson Knight. We had two units of Crimson Knight actually. I think it was two epic units. I forgot their names exactly, but it was like I think like Spear Shot. And then there's like a Spear Shot was like the one with the axe, right? I think. And then there's like a sniper one. And then there's also Bitterwort. Bitterwort was one of them. I don't think they're good examples because I didn't have them in mind. I don't know their ability. They don't use them. But imagine you have these units coming from a particular expansion, right? And they have pretty much all the same abilities. Let's assume they have all the same abilities. They're also the same roles, right? Like imagine they're all breakers. So we can use this Outlaw Pikeman, for example. Now, if they all have the same abilities, like there's no power creep there, right? But like if you imagine there's a new set coming out and they have all the same abilities except for one single ability, and that's their basic. And the only difference is like the basic, aka like slash in this case, instead of doing 100% physical damage, it does 110% physical damage. And like that was the only difference between these sets of units, is like the basic did more damage. That is an instance of power creep, right? There's no particular reason to use this older version, right? If the name of the game is to win by reducing your opponents to 0%, whether it be PvP, PvE, if this does just more damage, there's no reason to use this older version, right? It's just statistically, I guess, mathematically, and whatever other reasons, you're better off using the higher damage version of a particular skill, right? So that's what I mean in sort of like power creep. And there's some cases for that in this game, right? Like I think some units have like the same ability name, but I think the effects differ a bit, and that's like sort of an example of power creep. And it's sort of very under the nose, right? It's not something you really notice too much, because I think at least for the more SSR units, like the legendary units, I think generally people tend to just use the non-basics most of the time, just because like silences or like no active skills don't come up too often, and so you're just spamming it because everyone's got like their 5-star units, right? So usually you don't see it too often, but where you do see it, it can look different in different ways, and when it looks different in different ways, it might also just be complexity creep, right? Power creep might be complexity creep, but complexity creep isn't always power creep. And I'm sure there's like different ways to spin this, but like here's another example of like perhaps a version of complexity creep. So for Outlaw Pikeman, you can see his slash, it does just 100%, right? 100% physical damage. So I am going into a game and I'm imagining he's got 347 physical attack. This is going to do 347 physical attack. That sounds okay. Now imagine if you could split this slash into two attacks, or like one single attack, but it does damage twice at 50%. Now what does that look like? Like what does that mean in a game like this? And it could look very different depending on like how this works. I actually don't know, but in this example, we have someone like the Convallaria Scout. What's their name, right? Imagine they were also the same like role too, right? This is a secret class, so imagine if they're like the same class, so they're both breakers. Well, Convallaria Scout has dual blade strike. It deals damage 2 times. Isn't that interesting? So what does that mean? So it's interacting with the defense stat twice, but also it has the ability to crit twice, right? So this is sort of, and this like in total will equal to 100% physical damage. So this is sort of a version of complexity creep and power creep, right? Now, this could be changed in the sense that like there could be some ways of, I guess programmatically changing this where the devs might make it such that, it can only crit once, and then maybe it's a little closer to being like the original slash from the pikeman. But like here is an instance where like this is probably a version of complexity creep that maybe may not be power creep, right? Like, what are the chances of Valerian Scout dealing that extra crit damage, right? Now, it could be the case that, like, I don't know, the Seeker might just be like a crit reliant Seeker, right? Yeah, crit increases by 30%. So, like, the idea here is that, like, the Seeker is probably doing more crit. And that might be okay, right? I think in face value, like, in a vacuum, like, this looks like a stronger ability. But one thing that I think a lot of folks might not be keen on is the fact that like there are different roles being played here. Like this Seekers, I think in general Seekers are usually ones that are, causing a ruckus in battle, right? They're sort of like your assassins, they're your archers, they're your people who sort of run amok in the back line. And I don't know, does it actually show it as a role, right? Seekers just fight the breakers. The breakers hit the things. Okay, but yeah, the Seekers are just like there to run amok on the back line, in my opinion, right? They're the ones that they're like Cole, right? They're the ones that have the grappling hooks. They are able to go invisible a lot of times. They're there to not particularly take damage, but they're there to get in there, deal damage, and then potentially get out if they can, right? They're sneaky enough or fast enough. Okay, then what is a pikeman doing? What is a pikeman doing? I imagine a pikeman is someone who's there in the front lines, just trying to get to the back lines, but not in a very sort of circuitous way. They're trying to go directly and not like around the front line. And so like their abilities are probably going to be more reliant on their non-basic attacks. But like it's good to have a basic attack, right? Like everyone needs a basic attack. But like this goes to say like just because the power of the pikeman there isn't as much as in the pikeman's basic attack as there is in the Valerian Scout's basic attack, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'd always choose the Valerian Scout over the pikeman, right? There's trade-offs here. And so one of the things when I see power creep or think about power creep is that hopefully there are abilities in here that allow you to reasonably pick the pikeman in some circumstances over the scout. And we can probably see that, right? Like if you look at these abilities, I haven't leveled them up at all. But like look at these abilities. Shrapnel. He's got more damage for every time he moves a tile. So he's very agile, bunch of movement-based abilities. He gets in there and he has like a version of Extreme Edge. Wait, this is actually just Extreme Edge. We were just talking about Lutfi like the other day, and like this is like literally just Extreme Edge, just called something different. And like that's okay, right? But like this is a sort of cool showing that like this unit is meant to not really care about his allies, right? Like he just goes in there, does what he needs, and gets out. He's pretty much just like sort of one trick pony, where like he only has one sort of job, and that might push the power budget for this unit. When I say power budget, I mean it's the allotted ability to put power into a unit in such a way that like it's allowed to do it without being overpowered, right? So the power budget is probably in like the offense of this unit. So like he's allowed to have stronger attacks. Where like if you see someone like pikeman, maybe these are equivalent because the power budget of the pikeman is also in its like defensive stats. So I'm hoping that when I see this, we might see something more defensive in his abilities. And I swear, like I've not seen these units in like forever. As you have not even upgraded them. So like let's look at the abilities. And it might be even not even like the defensive, right? It might even be like debuffing, right? The power budget might be in the debuffing here too as well. So physical attack increases, but damage decreases. So yeah, he's also I think very attack oriented actually. When attacking characters. Okay, inflicts. Okay, but inflicts attack down and move down too, which is like pretty significant, right? After attacking, removes attack down 2. Counter attack, curse, vulnerable. I mean, I think there's a lot of overlap for sure. Like as you can see though, like instead of having like that Extreme Edge variant, you have a version that costs less energy and has less cooldown at the expense of like having not having the chance to do crit damage, right? So like that's sort of the trade-off when you see these two. But also you have to take into account that these upgrades are also upgrading like their defense mostly, right? There's like some attack upgrades here, but like mostly it's like defense, health. I think it's like only these two that are increasing the attack. But like if you see the Pikmin, I'm sorry, the Scout, I'm guessing like these are all sort of attacks. No, they're all defense. They're all defense. Like you can see, like there's a reason why you would choose the Scout over the Pikeman. Like imagine if you're playing against some like destroyer unit, right? That they only have like, I think for most time like 3 movement speed or 3 movement time movement, and it's like if you really want to get rid of them before they can like freeze your team and stop you from getting to them, then you want someone that can be really fast and like go first, right? This unit is going 165 versus the Pikeman is going 192. Wow, Pikeman's even faster. So like that also might be a case where like the power budget isn't in the actual abilities, but it's actually in the ability to be more proactive from the Pikeman, or the Scout has to be a little slower. So like this isn't a clear-cut case of power creep, which is good, right? If you can have reasons to not choose a particular unit, I think in general that's a good thing, because that adds diversity. And I think if one of your intentions for a game is to ensure that people are going back to play it because it has a lot of like replay value, I think that comes at the expense of ensuring like you have a lot of diversity, or like even RNG in some cases, and that sort of reveals itself in like the sort of differences in units, right? If you generally just have like a steep incline of units that just do more and more damage, or like don't have reason to play an older one over a new one, then I think things becomes pretty stale, right? It's just like get the next unit and that's it. That's the gameplay, right? So that's like power creep and complexity creep in a nutshell. So one thing I wanted to discuss in the video was like the sort of differences between Kavari and Lutfi. I think these units have a different sort of reasons to play them while also being particularly similar. And there is some overlap, but it's not. I think it's pretty obvious when you come to see it, right? So when you look at Kavari's traits, what do you see when you get Kavari? So in general, when I'm playing Kavari, usually I'm going in and I'm looking to nuke or snipe a single unit from like across the battlefield. So we can do, let's see, we can fight Teeden again. Literally everyone loves fighting Teeden. It's like, poor Teeden, what did he do? What did he do? Okay, so like, what am I doing when I'm playing Kavari here in this match? I'm looking to kill the most annoying units that can hinder my chance of winning. What does that look like? And like reliably, I think Kavari is like one of the more egregious cases of power creep, but like we can show why you might choose Kavari over like Lutfi. Okay, so let's play this. So at first, what I want to do is kill this dude. This dude is super annoying. Is it the silence dude? Yeah, it's the silence dude. Active skills. Okay, so I want to try to kill that thing as soon as possible. So what am I gonna do? So I can't immediately attack him. But what I will do is, oh, and I don't have enough to, because it's kind of annoying. I don't have enough to slow Teeden down. What I think is gonna happen is he's gonna come to me, and then he's going to just like bash me. Okay, that's fine though. Go here, and I think we want to use this, just so that we can ensure Kavari stays safe here. Okay, cool. So with that, we're gonna try to kill this dude. Well, we're not gonna kill him. He's got a lot of damage, or a lot of health. 10k? That's like my Coco, right? Coco's got 10k. I mean, Kavari's got literally almost 10k as well. So, would I be able to kill him? Okay, I can do a lot. And like, let's look into why Kavari's doing this much damage too, right? So his attack is up. Nocturnal Glow is giving him an extra 10%. 10%. Oh shoot. Let's see. So what's gonna happen is we're going to hit with a roster and then conviction. So the conviction, we're going to deal 100% magic attack. As life loss inflicts down 2. The target has roster. Oh, I see. Because this is 5709 here, right? And the extra 10% are probably not calculated in this actual buff right here because this is only my physical attack. The damage isn't going to be showed here. I think the damage is only showed as part of like the sort of damage preview. Okay, that already has roster. Right, the damage preview is going to show the extra damage buff that we get from our Nocturnal Glow, right? Wait, 5709, 10% of that, 570? I don't know which calculated first, but 570. The 6566. That's like a. Yeah, okay, that's like. I'm kind of seeing it. Like I'm just eyeballing it, and like the damage kind of makes sense. But yeah, so what's gonna happen is like we're going to be able to kill this unit because I think he's gonna be at. Oh, he's not quite at the 1/3, right? I need to be. When does roster trigger? So conviction's gonna trigger. But does conviction? Actually, I don't even remember. Does conviction trigger? Target has roster, dispels all their buffs before. Oh, so it just. Wait. Hold up. This is deals damage equal 100% of the character's magic attack. The target has roster, dispels all their buffs before, actually attacking, and additionally deals 100% magic damage to the character's attack. Wait, it doesn't trigger the roster though, right? If the target has roster, dispels all their buffs. It just deals 100% magic attack. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm like doing the calculation right. Like, is this right? Clicks roster. Okay. I mean, I think the damage is okay, but like, yeah, we can like, as Kavari, like the purpose is like immediately just nuke someone that we don't like, which is like this dude right here. Okay, we didn't quite kill the dude. So. Probably fine though. This is like one of the reasons why you pick Micah though. She's like an absolute tank. Like literally disgusting. Yikes. She tanked all that stuff, right? Like that's why you play Micah here. Okay, cool. So like from there we were able to pretty decisively like just kill that guy, right? I mean, we did take some damage. We didn't go out unscathed, but like Kavari's purpose is to like not really spread debuffs as much as he is right now, but like just to nuke a unit, right? He can use this, but like this is only 40% magical attack. And on top of that, it's like triggering and moving all damage or Taiko effects. So like, yeah, we can trigger once we've applied enough damage over time effects, but like by itself, it's not doing too much, right? Like Kavari just wants to kill that unit from like a million miles away. You don't do that with Lutfi. Like Lutfi is not reliably killing that dude. Like very few worlds Lutfi is like reliably killing that dude in turn 2? Was that turn 2 with Kavari, right? So we go back. Okay, let's see what we do. Turn 1, we apply it here, and then we do it. Yep. Okay. Okay, the first rotation, the first cycle through, he's dead. That's not something Lutfi is doing. But what Lutfi is doing, as you can see, compared to what we did do here. Hold up. We saw that we were able to kill this person here. We didn't kill this dude, but we killed these two. And we killed the bottom one, the Scholar of Union, I think. The Seeker. We killed her because Maitha was able to trigger the roster. That is very unlikely if you do just like a Lutfi run here. If you do like a Lutfi run, what Lutfi's gonna do though is he's gonna apply way more damage over time effects to a larger breadth of units. So like if you really want a strong debuffer who's gonna apply a lot more debuffs, and this is more like a quality versus quantity thing, in my opinion, is that Lutfi is going to apply more quantitatively. He's gonna, excuse me, I'm like mumbling right here. He's going to apply more debuffs in this case than Kavari. That's just like how he rolled, at least in my current build, right? I can find him. There he is. We don't really care about killing, really. I mean, sure. Let's just like apply whatever we have. I think our next closest is like this one. We can use. I mean, this is not gonna matter because we're not killing these units. That's just like an example. That's fine. Okay. So like, imagine I do the same thing again. Here probably. Lutfi's also like a bit slower too. And this is not to say like Lutfi can contest and damage. Like, I'm sure there's like a world where like Lutfi might just be better. Like there's scenarios, and that's like one of the points of like this example is that like there's not a strict reason to pick all the characters. Like not every character is gonna be strictly better. So like here's like an example that maybe Lutfi's gonna be better, right? He can sort of remove some of the aggro that Maipa's getting. Like as a tank, we need also some breathing room. And so what's gonna happen here, hopefully, is Maipa is going to be able to survive by just like running away here. And like we don't really care about Lutfi because he can just protect themselves. They got invisibility. Oh, there goes the move actually. Jeez. Maipa's actual trooper. Okay, but we can see here those like, I think there's only 2 characters at the end of the Kavari run had the debuffs. We got a debuff on Scholar of Union, debuff on this pikeman, no debuff on him. Debuff on Tiden. Then okay, but like I think y'all get my example here. It's like Luffy's like pound for pound is applying many more debuffs than Kavari. Just like not as great quality, right? These buffs are gonna last a little longer. They're gonna be on the field a little longer, right? Like Kavari is gonna try to like nuke the person who he's debuffing. Just like he's trying to get him off the field immediately. But like Luffy's sitting there just kind of taking his time. So that's one sort of reason why you might play Kavari over Lutfi or Lutfi over Kavari. Now, how you might manage to use all these debuffs? That's a good point. I think a lot of times, at least for Lutfi, to me, in my opinion, it seems like the debuffs are a means to an end. Like he eventually does want to kill these people. It's just like slowly whittle them out for I guess the team combat he's gonna be in. So that's where I'm getting at there. And you know, this also might be like a complexity thing here. Like, is Lutfi best in slot here? Well, maybe, right? Like, but maybe not, right? There's other reasons outside of like, I guess, how the character works that also might be a detriment to playing someone that's just strictly reliant on like someone that's damage over time. And this also goes to the point that like, even at times, Kavari is not just best in slot for the type of content that you're playing. I think in most cases, a lot of times people are just like referring to, I think maybe PvP, but a lot of this content, I think, in my opinion, sort of Convallaria is like PvE related. It's like how you can play against, like I guess the CPU or like the AI. But like, let's see. I think one example that I saw recently was, I think it was Crossing Worlds. You have cases where people are just immune to damage over time. Like, I think here you can just do this. Like some users immune to damage over time, and so like if you imagine if you have like a primary team that sort of has Lutfi as like the main damage dealer, there could be scenarios where like you just can't deal with the scenario because you just don't deal damage, right? You do life loss as your damage. So I think that's Magnus? So Magnus. Okay, yeah, so it's Magnus. It's a Sorcerer's Field effect. So this effect means Lutfi can't deal damage to him. Like, with my current build of Lutfi, which is literally just all passive damage, he cannot hurt Magnus. And I can just show you, and I can even show you Kavari probably. So you probably run this through. I don't want to actually deal damage because I guess this is like a good... I don't know, maybe I'll finish it here as well. Maybe I can just finish them off with Coco. Like, this is gonna be like a cool example on showing you like why maybe like life loss characters just always aren't as cracked up as they are shown to be. Okay, we can do this. Can we just like pull everyone? Oh, almost. Okay, at least take care of this dude. We're just gonna try and kill. We're just gonna kill everyone, but we're just trying to get the base. Okay. I think Lutfi can handle that. But I think I can also show you just like, because this is damage over time, right? Like Kavari can do damage over time as well. But like if we just do this, right? DOT immunization. Like, he's just not getting killed by Lutfi or Kavari, right? Does he have any debuffs? Let me just make sure he doesn't have any debuffs that are like DOT. Yeah. No DOT debuffs. So it's like, are they necessarily best in slot if your content is like this, right? And it's not even like the devs can't just make more characters like this. Like, this is like an old stage. Like, I'm pretty sure most people who have like Kavari or Lutfi have already sort of handled these sort of dailies. But like, you can imagine they're gonna do more dailies like this that are just sort of showing that like you need to make sure your teams are particularly diverse. That way they can handle these larger scenarios. But yeah, so like this is literally, I think, mostly gonna be like auto attack based. Like the only way to kill this dude is like with auto attacks. Otherwise, he's like running through my team. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so all in all, I think in general, I think sort of Convallaria does have, and I think it's not necessarily bad, but like most games do have some sort of complexity X power creep. I think for Lutfi and Kavari, like it's, you can sort of see it, where like they're both doing similar things. I think Lutfi is probably maybe a shorter ranged version of Kavari in some instances, where like they're both doing life loss. I think Lutfi does a lot more debuffing than Kavari, and so the differences there might, you mount more debuffs on your team, so why you'd pick Lutfi. Also, if you're really trying to do life loss damage, there are other ways of doing life loss damage that also have some sort of semblance of damage. Not, when I say life loss damage, I mean life loss, right? But like actual damage, that way you don't have instances like you're playing against the what was that unit we're fighting? Magnus, right? Or Magnus had DOT immunization. You can imagine where like if we are playing against things that are like Magnus who have DOT immunization, something like Luvada can still do a decent amount of damage without having to worry about that. Where like she does life loss, right? Like Lutfi, even like Nydia, right? They all do sort of some sort of life loss, but she also deals like actual damage, right? And also like life loss is only impacted by, I think, like your attack stat going up, right? So damage buffs I don't think impact life loss. So there's just like a bunch of trade-offs here, which is like why you have to like think of it. It's not always just like, oh, best in slot, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. I think as we get more and more characters, it's going to be less and less clear, perhaps like, and I hope it's not the case, but like which one shines over generally over like all of its content, right? Like I think it's good that we have differences between units. Otherwise, it sort of feels bad to get like when you're opening up units and like you get like this super like you open up like a I feel bad for picking on her, but like you open like a Maita, right? Where like she's not doing as much as like a Coco generally. Like you don't want situations like that because then it feels like as a new player, like you're going in for the long haul because the odds of you picking up a character that's actually used or playable that you like is going to be slimmer. Just because like the old characters that you opened up, they're just not good, right? You don't want that feeling, I think, generally as like a developer. So anyways, that's my video. Let me know what y'all think about power creep and complexity creep. Is there more than the other in sort of Convallaria? Do you think there's more complexity creep and power creep? Personally, that's what I'm a fan of. If there's more complexity creep, that's I think generally better. But if there's power creep, that's also like okay, just like in small doses perhaps, or like having a way to not make it so obvious. But also if there is, you can do like the whole League of Legends approach where you can also update the older units. But I'm not sure if we've seen instances like that. There's also something said that like if you do make updates on older units, you sort of you sort of make the owners of like these previous units feel alienated kind of because the units that they knew they've changed, right? So maybe it'd only be like a ability change here and there or like a stat change, but like having those be updated so that they can account for like the new sort of power creep would also be like a cool way to update against that or fight against the power creep for older units. Or you can do a thing like Pokemon where like they introduced the new type, right? Pokemon had fire type, I'm sorry, not fire type, they had fairy type, where like we have 5 types. We have like the Seeker, we have Watcher, Destroyer, etc., right? Like if we had another type to introduce like more counters, that could also be a way to fight against power creep. But like you'd also have to like update the types for like the older units perhaps, so that way they can adjust, they can play better versus the newer type, right? Where like the new unit types are stronger against like last meta's stronger types, something like that. Hope that makes sense. I'll catch y'all later. I don't know if I'm gonna do more content on like meta discussion or stuff like that, but maybe some Spirals of Destiny, maybe something else. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll catch y'all later.